On this edition of Somerville Neighborhood News, there are several affordable housing proposals on the table. Middle school health survey results are out. Films Unlikely Romances. All that and more tonight on Somerville Neighborhood News.
Hello and welcome to Somerville Neighborhood News. I'm Joe Lynch. Today is Tuesday, February 9th, 2016, first in the nation presidential primary voting day for our neighbors in New Hampshire. Here in Massachusetts, your chance to vote in the presidential primary is March 1st. The deadline, however, to register to vote or change your party affiliation is tomorrow, February 10th. If you've missed the deadline, be sure to register for the November general election by visiting the election department at City Hall, and for the first time, you can register online at the Massachusetts Secretary of State's website, www.sec.ma.us/OVR. The Somerville Election Department is hiring poll workers for the March 1st primary. For more information on this opportunity, contact the Somerville Elections Department at 617-625-6600, extension 4200, or stop by the Elections Office at City Hall. Whether you call it affordable housing, inclusionary housing, or sustainable neighborhoods, keeping residents from being priced out of the city is a critical issue here in Somerville. Right now, there are three major initiatives to address the problem. Reporter Laura Onyenyeho takes us through them.
We're losing families. We're losing families that were here for generations. We're losing families that stayed here for a year or two and got priced out because they actually needed a unit to accommodate them.
Somerville faces one of its most pressing issues this year, expanding the already dwindling supply of affordable housing. For years, the city's hot real estate market has increased rental and housing prices, leaving residents at risk of being pushed out of their neighborhoods. There are three groups with proposals before the city to address the affordable housing crisis: the Sustainable Housing Working Group appointed by Mayor Curtatone, the Resident Group for Inclusionary Housing Zoning Ordinance, and the citywide zoning overhaul process.
There were a lot of recommendations that the committee made in three general areas: resources, basically raising money for affordable housing; policies about affordable housing; and programs, affordable housing programs.
Ward 5 Alderman Mark Niedergang is the co-chair of the Sustainable Neighborhoods Working Group. The 26-member panel spent the last 10 months developing a comprehensive set of recommendations that includes everything from an increase in affordable housing ratios to additional funding initiatives.
When we proposed our interim inclusionary zoning amendments, what we wanted to do was something as simple as possible. We wanted to take the existing city ordinance and simply change a few things.
Housing advocate Fred Berman led a petition drive for an inclusionary housing zoning ordinance change. With more than 500 signatures, the petition was presented at a public meeting in the Alderman's Chamber last December. The inclusionary housing ordinance includes demands for eviction protection and affordable amenities like parking and laundry facilities. The planning board is currently in the midst of a citywide zoning overhaul. The original plan was brought up before a vote last year, but the aldermen sent the planning board back to the drawing board. Community meetings and revisions are now underway.
We filed this ordinance now was because creating a brand new zoning ordinance for the entire city is really, really complex. It's going to take a lot of discussion. There's no guarantee that the second time that the city tries to do this, it's going to get everything right so that the Board of Aldermen endorses it.
Both sustainable neighborhoods and the inclusionary proposal have similar goals, but different approaches.
The reason that we filed this as an interim provision is because in the same way that when there's a change in capital gains tax law or other tax law, people, investors, people, developers, corporate people figure out what do they need to do to beat the new law, get ahead of the new law. And that's exactly what's going to happen. If developers anticipate that inclusionary zoning requirements are going to go up in the next year, they're going to try to get their permits in before.
On 311 Highland Avenue, new 7-unit luxury condos were built. The most expensive range in between $1.3 to $1.6 million. Under the current proposal, 7-unit developments fall below the maximum requirement of 8 units. Under the new recommendations, 6 units will count for 20% of affordable housing. Concerns of the developers building in other cities due to the extent of the proposals have been raised, but Niedergang doubts that would happen.
Most of the housing that's being developed now are small luxury condos. And you know what? If it chills the development of small luxury condos in Somerville, personally, that doesn't bother me a whole lot. I don't think we need more small luxury condos in Somerville for wealthy people. We need affordable housing for folks who are living here now. So, you know, if it stops all housing development, that would be bad. I don't think that's very likely.
A second draft of the initial zoning overhaul will be put out in June, and a public hearing in September to review the recommendations of the proposal. For Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Laura Onyenaho.
You can find the full Sustainable Neighborhoods report at bit.ly/Sustainable Neighborhoods Report. Knowing what your middle schooler is really thinking isn't always easy. Somerville Cares About Prevention is helping. An April 2015 anonymous health survey administered to middle schoolers looked at issues including alcohol use, drug use, bullying, and overall school environment and services. Reporter Kate Bell was there when the results were released.
The evidence is in. Somerville middle school students are becoming responsible teenagers, according to the recently released Middle School Student Health Survey results. The survey was developed by the Somerville Office of Prevention in conjunction with the Somerville Public Schools and administered to 880 students in grades 6 to 8. Rory Mashburn is the Director of Prevention Services. He believes including the students in the conversation brings a positive change.
Well, I think one is that they know they have a voice. I was circling around at the event and kids were speaking their mind. And they were speaking about ideas that they wanted. And I think that when kids know that they're a part of something and when their voices are heard, they're more willing to hop on the train and help us out.
For Mashburn, the results were really not that surprising.
I wasn't surprised. We try to stay ahead of the game on a lot of the trends. I think that we knew that the mental health data was going to be where it was, and that's a scary thing. But in the world of drug prevention, you're always going to be working on something. It doesn't matter if a number is down to 0, you're still working on it.
Smoking and drug use are down, but mental health-related issues are rising. Mashburn knows that when one number goes up, another is likely to follow.
I think there could always be more of a discussion. I mean, from what I heard tonight, some parents, they were talking about their parents were scared to talk about drugs and sex and other items. In today's world, I don't think we can't be scared to talk about things.
The results were announced in a game show format with students from Somerville Protection Forces, also known as SPF 100, asking the audience multiple-choice questions and sharing the correct answers. Anmal Bartow is a senior at Somerville High School and member of SPF 100. He remembers what 6th grade was like and feels programs like SPF 100 are beneficial and help encourage conversation.
As a 6th grader, you're not really involved with too much aside from the things that school gives you, like the sports and like education itself. But looking at our data over the years, I really have seen a decrease in so many of our negative habits in the community. I remember coming up to high school, I saw a lot more kids smoking, and to this day, I'll walk home, and there used to be kids who used to smoke, but now it's almost gone. I really feel like in the tobacco section, we have really done a good job, and as well as bullying. You don't really understand it at the time, but I've seen how we've come together and try to tackle the issues on substance abuse, drinking, and bullying, and suicide, mental health, all those things.
A sophomore and member of Teen Empowerment agrees. She's concerned that middle schoolers aren't given enough credit for the stress they face.
It opened up a lot of people's minds, especially at the table, because it's true. We don't we usually don't assume that middle schoolers don't have these issues. They think, oh, it's just the regular issues, as you said earlier, about like boys and things like that in grades. But it's gotten a little worse over the years, is things like older kids would stress them out. And I really feel like from an adult's perspective, they assume that middle schoolers don't feel that way because they're younger and they don't have responsibilities. They don't have to the whole world on their shoulders. And for some middle schoolers, unfortunately, it is that way. And we never really know what the next person goes through, especially someone at that age. Stress comes at any age, really. And I feel like we should put more emphasis on getting to know the actual intimate issues with middle schoolers.
The event began an open discussion between Somerville Middle School parents and students. Mashburn said the only way to stay on top of the issues is to be proactive. We cannot be reactive around the topics of drug and alcohol. Reporting for Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Kate Bell.
Now let's see what's happening this week at the Somerville Journal with editor Dan Atkinson.
Hello, this week in the Somerville Journal, we'll be checking out the city's massive housing study. We'll be looking at police-immigrant relations, and we'll be hanging out with a bunch of feral cats. You can always find us online at somerville.wickedlocal.com and on Twitter @VilleJournal. And you can get in touch with me at 617-629-3385 or datkinson@wickedlocal.com.
If a romantic dinner with hearts and flowers isn't in the cards this Valentine's Day, Boston Free Radio producer Dan Burke has some recommendations for offbeat films that celebrate the imperfection of romance.
Valentine's Day is arguably one of the most polarizing holidays that we have. People either really love it or really hate it, and you don't hear a lot about people in the middle of the road. In terms of movies, if people really hate Valentine's Day, they usually go see a slasher flick. If they love it, it's usually a romantic comedy, or even sometimes, if guys' girlfriends are really insistent, a romantic drama. So I decided to put together this list of movies that are appropriate for Valentine's Day for people who are more in the middle of the road, and who are probably single for that matter. Any single person who feels like they're missing out on something on Valentine's Day will probably get a lot out of watching the movie Marty. Marty is a movie that's over 60 years old and may feel a little dated, especially because it's black and white. And it's a movie about a guy who's 34 years old, still lives with his mother, and is very, very unlucky when it comes to romance.
No, Ma, I don't want to go to Stardust Ballroom because all that ever happened to me there was girls made me feel like I was a bug.
But in typical romantic comedy fashion, his luck turns one night.
What are you doing New Year's Eve?
Nothing.
There's something very refreshing about how uncliche it really is. And Ernest Borgnine's performance as Marty is still endearing after all these years. If you've ever broken up with someone, or if you've broken up with someone recently, one of the movies to watch is Her. It's a movie that when you see it, it feels very cathartic to view someone who's just been through a divorce, like the character that Joaquin Phoenix plays in the movie. From there, Phoenix's character gets involved in a bizarre but poignant relationship with his operating system, who's voiced by Scarlett Johansson.
Good morning, Theodore.
Good morning.
You have a meeting in 5 minutes. You want to try getting out of bed? Get up!
You're too funny.
But the movie Her doesn't just delve into the twisted psychology of a human being having a relationship with what is essentially artificial intelligence. It also tells a more human side of love and relationships. Eventually, Her will be less science fiction and more psychology. That'll be kind of strange, but it certainly makes for a great movie. So when I was first coming up with this list and movies to choose for it, I had a lot of animated movies in mind. But for this show, since it's only such a limited time, I decided to choose one animated movie. And I could have gone with a conventional one like Shrek or several other Disney films. I think The Hunchback of Notre Dame comes to mind. But the one I chose instead was one you may not have seen. It's called Howl's Moving Castle. This one is an anime movie directed by Hayao Miyazaki, and it's one of his better ones. In fact, I don't think he's ever had a bad one. The central character is a girl who, there's nothing really wrong with her, but she just has very low self-esteem and is very introverted. A spell is cast on her by a witch that turns her from a young girl into an old lady.
That's really me, isn't it?
And the spell puts her at a distinct disadvantage when it comes to earning the affections of a magical prince.
That is ancient sorcery. Quite powerful, too.
If you see Howl's Moving Castle, not only will you be enthralled and entertained, but you also might learn a little something about yourself. One of my favorite Shakespearean romances, which might appeal to people, single people in the middle of the road, is A Midsummer Night's Dream. There have been many film adaptations of this play, but the one I probably like the best is the 1999 version starring a lot of American actors such as Kevin Kline, Stanley Tucci, Michelle Pfeiffer. What makes this one special is the great acting by the people who are actually involved in romances, like Callista Flockhart, Christian Bale, Dominic West, and Anna Friel. These are very good-looking people who you wouldn't expect to play people who lack self-confidence, but they do it very well, and with a certain amount of vulnerability to which many single people who are unlucky in love can relate. I know I certainly could. So if you find yourself without a date or with nothing to do on Valentine's Day, definitely grab some chocolate and catch one of these movies. I recommend it.
Dan hosts Words on Film at bostonfreeradio.com every Tuesday from 1 to 2 p.m. Long before Union Square was hip, before Assembly Row was a bustling entertainment center, before Somerville had cachet, a young Irish guy named Ken Kelly took a chance on Union Square and opened the Independent Restaurant. From there, he added several other establishments, the most recent of which is the River Bar at Assembly Row. In December of 2015, Ken Kelly lost his battle with cancer, and Somerville lost a generous and dedicated member of the business community. In 2014, Kelly received the John W. Fitzgerald Lifetime Achievement Award from the Somerville Chamber of Commerce. Here's an excerpt from the video compilation created for that event.
Union Square was nowhere on anybody's radar. You took a chance, and you stayed in Union Square through thick and thin, and now that square is going through an enormous transformation, and you have led the way in that transformation.
Sometimes I don't know how you do it. Your hard work, determination inspire me every day. I'm proud to be your brother, and thanks for taking me along for the ride.
What most people don't know is that his primary business is real estate consulting in the wireless industry. He's able to work in all these industries for a number of different reasons. He's focused, he's hardworking, he's smart, and he's stubborn as hell. Most people don't know that after 9/11, he was part of a small team sent to New York City to restore wireless communication to Lower Manhattan. It's one of the many things that he hasn't been acknowledged for. Ken, congratulations on all your achievements.
Hi Ken, when I grow up I want to be just like you. Congratulations.
Ken was a good friend of Scat TV. In the early days of The Independent, he was often seen crossing the parking lot here, arms piled high, sharing tasty treats from the new eatery in Union Square. On behalf of all of us at Scat TV, our condolences go out to his wife, his children, and his extended family here in Somerville and beyond. That's our newscast for tonight. We'll be back on February 23rd at 7 p.m. on Channel 3. Check out all of our news stories at somervilleneighborhoodnews.org. Somerville Neighborhood News is a community service production of Scat TV. We invite you to get involved. Visit our Facebook page, SCATV SNN, to comment. Tweet us at SCATV SNN, or call us at 617-628-8826, and you can always email us at news@scatvsomerville.org. I'm Joe Lynch. Thanks for joining us. See you around the neighborhood.